Hey guys, Chris Potter here, and today I'm going to be talking about which healer you should choose for PvE. Throughput wise, the classes are the closest they have been in a long time, but I'll be looking at more than just throughput here. I'll be going through the classes in no particular order. Let's start by looking at Druid. Druids have a niche of being able to do raid healing extremely well during heavy movement. As you may have seen, we even went double resto Druid when we were progressing Jaina, when the intermission was bugged and we were getting more stacks in the intermission, because the intermission was such a heavy movement phase and it required a lot of raid healing at the same time. However, outside of this, in raid, they don't really bring much. They bring competitive HPS, but there's nothing special about them. For the casual player, this isn't really a problem, since, you can be quite happy just doing good HPS. But to earn a spot in World First Progress Comp, I still think Druid are lacking behind the other healers, and they're just missing something extra. As for Mythic Plus, Resto Druids are the kings right now. You should expect to see many Resto Druids in the upcoming MDI Cups, which, like I said, it should be really soon. Their short cooldown Iron Bark, their ability to provide meaningful DPS, having the Enrage Dispel with Soothe, and having utility spells like Rebirth, Prowl, Ursul's Vortex, makes them an absolute favourite for M+. Their downsides in M+ are not many. They basically just have weaker single target healing compared to like Monk, and they have less throughput, you could argue, and like cooldowns than something like Shaman, but generally very solid M+ class. Next, let's take a look at Shaman. Shamans are excelling in raids at the moment, bringing so many powerful tools such as Windrush Totem, Ankh Totem, Spirit Link. They are really valuable for progress raiding. Shamans excel when the raid is stacked up, which is part of the reason why they're so good in the current raid. Both Stormwall Blockade and Jaina have the raid group stacked for basically the entire fight. Shamans also have access to a DPS trait called Igneous Potential, which allows them to opt into doing really high single target DPS, even as a healer. Shaman's weakness in raid is the same as always. When the raid is spread out and cannot stack, they lose so much power. So much of Shaman's power comes from the raid being stacked, that in a fight where there's, very large spread, it feels kind of weak. In Mythic Plus, Shamans bring some really niche tools. They are the only healer with an interrupt, and it's also a low CD rage interrupt too. Very useful. They also bring Earth Elemental, which is particularly good at the moment for the current seasonal affix, Reaping. It can tank all the mobs, stop the tank getting the dot, the big magic debuff that stacks up and does ticking damage. Really good. Like in raid, when the group can be close together for chain heal, Shaman can just pump absolute disgusting healing numbers in M+. Really good for high bursting stacks, that kind of thing, if the group can stack. And like I said before, the Igneous Potential trait, really good in M+ as well for bosses and single target packs. Really good DPS. Despite their strengths, they also have the weaknesses that were the same in raid. When the group can't stack, it's very bad. They also have quite weak single target healing compared to the other healers in M+, and they also have no external, and often you have to end up using your Spirit Link as an external, so yeah, it's not great. Next up, Mistweaver Monk. Mistweaver Monks in raid bring a lot of raid healing, while also bringing the best single target healing you can get in the game. They probably have the best survivability out of all the healers, and they also have really good mobility. They have cool tools like Ring of Peace, which can be quite useful in encounters such as Gahoon for the small Gahoonies, or Conclave for when the dinos come in and start chasing people during the bird. Really good time for Ring of Peace there. Their downsides in raids are quite similar to Druid, in that all they have cooldown wise is throughput. They don't bring any damage reduction cooldown, they don't have a fancy Ankh Totem type ability, they have nothing cool like that, they're just healing. In Mythic Plus, Mistweaver Monks are very strong, partly due to their ability to do the high single target and high group healing at the same time. Ring of Peace, Leg Sweep, Paralyze are all very useful tools in Mythic Plus, and Monk can also do decent DPS. One of their biggest weaknesses in Mythic Plus is that they count as a melee, and groups often actually want one range in the group to bait the range mechanics. They also have no offensive Purge or Enrage Dispel like Druid does, and they also suffer a lot more from movement in 5-man than they would suffer in a raid setting, usually because they're not playing Rushing Jade Wind in 5-man, so yeah, not the best on movement. Now for Priest. Priest has two very powerful raiding specs. Holy is arguably the king of overall healing throughput, and Disc is the king of the 10-second window burst healing. Holy has the two big raid cooldowns, Salvation and Hymn, and Disc has Barrier and the Evangelism ramp with Shadow Fiend for insane burst healing. It's just, both specs are crazy strong. Nobody thought we would actually kill Jaina Mythic week 1 with the burn strat because they thought the DPS requirement would be too hard. However, as you know, we were the only guild to kill it in the first week with the burn strat, and I think that's partly down to bringing 2 Disc Priests, because the extra DPS they bring is really valuable on progress. For the weaknesses of Priest and Raid, there aren't really that many. Having two strong specs that counter each other's weaknesses well means you can always change spec to be at least decent on a fight. The only weaknesses shared by both of the specs are that they cannot compete with classes like Monk for single target healing, and they're a bit weaker and a bit more likely to get killed. They haven't got the survivability cooldowns that some other classes have, but it's not anything major. In Mythic Plus, it's a different story completely. The only thing priests bring to Mythic Plus is, I would say, Discipline's damage while healing, and that's really it. Their weaknesses on the other hand are completely stacked. Their lack of single target healing hurts them a lot. They lack in utility tools compared to all the other classes, and Discipline in particular can struggle to heal affixes such as Grievous or Bursting. If you've ever tried to heal Grievous weak and Bursting weak on Discipline Priest, they're really not fun. It's really not enjoyable. Last but not least, Paladin. Paladin has changed in power a lot throughout the current raid tier, but right now it is really strong for raids. Paladins have started to stack the Azerite trait, Glimmer of Light, and this has created an entirely new playstyle in which Holy Shock is basically all you care about. It allows them to do incredible raid healing, which was, before this new build, probably their biggest weakness, so it's a big change. While this does take away from their tank healing and single target healing a little bit, the gain is absolutely massive and absolutely worth it. I mean, they're really losing minuscule amounts of tank healing and single target healing, like spot healing, to gain this, so I mean, it's a massive gain for them to play this playstyle. Paladin also brings strong externals like Sack and Bop, and as always they have Aura Mastery with Devo or Sack Aura, which is an absolute powerhouse damage reduction cooldown. Devo or especially Sack Aura if you can use it. The downside of Paladin Raid is that it does require to be in melee range to do the high throughput and to maximize your healing. You need to play the Crusader's Might talent and you need to be in melee, constantly Crusader striking the boss to get your Holy Shot cooldown down, and yeah, I mean that is a downside. If you can't be in melee, you're gonna suffer. Outside of cooldowns, Paladin does also seem to struggle with raid healing. That's kind of always been the case with Paladin. When you have your wings up and your cooldowns up, you're absolutely blasting, but as soon as they fall down, you feel kind of weak, and that's still the case. Paladin in Mythic Plus can be quite strong. Their cooldowns allow them to provide high single target DPS on bosses, and also allows them to deal with very dangerous packs, because they can just put their cooldowns on those packs and absolutely safe. The same with very high bursting stacks. If it's the bursting affix, Paladin's cooldowns are really good for dealing with high stacks. And Bop and Bubbler of course are always incredibly useful in Mythic Plus. The downside of Paladin in Mythic Plus is much like Raid. Again, it wants to be in melee to maximize potency, and when they haven't got the cooldowns up, they can struggle with throughput, so it's really about planning your cooldowns as a Paladin in Mythic Plus, I think. To summarize the classes, as I said at the start of the video, the classes are actually very well balanced right now HPS wise. Just healing throughput wise, the classes are so close. If you're looking to do raids primarily, you may find that Priest, Shaman or Paladin might be the best fit for you, and if you're looking to do more Mythic Plus based content, then Druid and Monk are absolutely the kings in that regard. As in almost any case though, unless you are pushing for World First or you're trying to win the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, the classes really are close enough that you can play whatever you enjoy the most, or whatever your guild wants you to play. So don't worry too much about it. I've been Chris Potter, and I hope you found this video useful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Bye guys.